Sharrow, an engineering marvel. No, I'm not an engineering marvel. Maybe one of these days with placement and everything else. But what I wanted to share with you was the Zion Mount Carmel Highway. And it's a road that goes from Zion Canyon over to the highway between Bryce Canyon and Grand Canyon. And it was constructed in 1927 to 1930 to facilitate tourism in the area. So, if you're ready, let's go. So, Zion National Park was established in 1909. We went off for a moment. 1909, and one of the first challenges was getting tourists into the area. The roads were horrible. There was no really practical functioning road in Zion Canyon. The ones in the area weren't any better. To actually go south from Cedar City up until the teens, you had to disassemble your wagon, lower it by ropes, and then reassemble it to continue on. So, what? Oh, okay. So the issue is, the parks in the area were wanted to have come together with the bus tours run by the railroad, and there was no way out of the east side of Zion Canyon. The park built the road up Zion Canyon, a gravel road, in 1917 to 1918. But the challenge was to get something out the east side. The persistent problem, was the Navajo sandstone. And that forms a 2,000-foot high sandstone cliffs. Now, it's eroded down in some areas, but any road going out of the canyon would have to negotiate several hundred feet of sandstone cliff to get out. There was a trail out the east side, but its pathway wasn't conducive to building a highway. So in the 1920s, one of the other things is any highway would have to cross these steep talus slopes to get up to the Navajo sandstone. So some really poor places to build a road or maintain a road. So in the 20s, the Park Service had a pilot study done to look at alternatives. One of the alternatives was up Pine Creek, into a tunnel into the Navajo sandstone, and then this corkscrew tunnel up through the Navajo, and then out across the Slick Rock. Another option was down the East Fork of the Virgin, and it is a straighter road, but the problem is the canyon's not straighter. It is very sinuous, and a road there would have required 6 to 8 tunnels to be built to negotiate that pathway. The engineers suggested a change to the initial route rather than on Pine Creek, rather than going up the north side of the creek and through this corkscrew tunnel. They suggested doing switchbacks on the south side and then a tunnel that follows the cliff face. And that's the current one. That's what was constructed. There was also a suggestion of building a road around the north side, but it was bad scenery, average scenery, bad weather, and so they chose the Pine Creek. So construction began in 1927. The Nevada Contracting Company, with a budget of about $1.8 million, started building up the switchbacks and then the tunnel. To do the tunnel, they had to build scaffolding up the side, and they went into the face of the rock in 5 different places. And went in there and then worked between all of those to connect them up. And that way they could be blasting along at a dozen different locations rather than just one at each end of the tunnel. They blasted out 10 by 10 pilot boring through there and then enlarged that out later to reach the final dimensions of 21 feet wide and 16 feet high. There were also several bridges and areas where the road was sculpted into the sandstone slopes and then supported by stone retaining walls, many miles of these stone retaining walls on the downhill side. And the part of the road that now goes out the east side through the Slick Rock country is mile after mile of this road that carved into notched into the rock. The tunnel was completed, the whole road project was completed in July of 1930. The length of the tunnel is a little over a mile. It was the longest highway tunnel in the US at the time. The Holland Tunnel in New York was built later that year. There are still issues to deal with it, lots of rockfall issues on the switchbacks, and the tunnel was built for the Model T era, and so it doesn't accommodate large vehicles very well. So we have a staff, they're always in place managing traffic through, for large vehicles through the tunnel. In 1993, the Historic American Engineering Record did a full report and documentation of the tunnel and its history, and it's now on the National Register of Historic Places and also a National Historic Engineering Landmark for the whole road. And that's it. And thanks.